Okay, so I told you I'd get back to you on this, the two questions from earlier today. First one, a family of five wants to take a road trip. There are three adults, two children. Can't see that. Two children. The car has seats for two in the front, three in the rear. The children must always sit somewhere in the rear. How many seating arrangements are possible? And the other one, six friends are going to ride a water coaster which has two benches that each holds three. Two of the friends don't like to get wet and will always need to sit somewhere on the back bench. How many seating arrangements are possible? These two questions are very, very similar and are solved the same way, so that's really nice. In order to make things a bit easier, what we're going to do is we are going to look at a family of four with one child riding in a car that holds two in the front and two in the rear. That'll make things a lot easier. So let's look at that. And let's do this sort of as a diagram first, and then we'll see how the math works out. That'll really bring that out. Okay. So we can imagine that we have a car with four seats, two in the front here and two in the rear. And we can label these seats 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can then look at our family, and we have person A, person B, person C, and person D. And since D is our child, we'll put a little box around that because that is what we will call the strong restriction. Okay. Now we can order this out, and when we do that, we're going to leave D on just seat number 4 here. That'll make things work a lot more, bring those out a lot more easily. So we can just basically end up then just dealing with seats 1, 2, and 3. And that, by the way, is ultimately how we solve the problem, by putting the child in the proper seats and then dealing with the other one. So we start out with, oops, let me move that up just a little bit. We start out with A in seat 1, B in seat 2, C in seat 3, and D in seat 4. And as I said, we're going to keep D there. Okay. We then are going to swap B and C, leave A in the front seat for a moment, or in the first seat. So A is sitting in seat 1. C then moves to the front seat 2. B then moves to the back to seat 3. And D stays over there in seat 4. We've done all we can with rotating B and C around, so we now have to swap A out. So B will drive in seat 1. A will ride shotgun in seat 2. C will move again to the back in seat 3. And D will remain in seat 4. Maybe he's sleeping. We don't know. Let's see. So now again, we need to swap A and C. So B has another turn at driving in seat 1. C moves to the front seat in seat 2. A sits in seat 3. And D remains in seat 4. We're done with A and C. We now need to move C to the driver's seat. So C sits in seat 1. A in seat 2. B in seat 3. And D in seat 4. Finally, we have C in seat 1, B riding shotgun in seat 2, A moving to the back seat to seat 3, and D sitting in seat 4. Now, if we moved the child, if we moved D over to this row here, over to seat 3, we would get exactly the same number again. We have 6 here, right? 2 for A in the front in the driver's seat, 2 for B in the driver's seat, 2 for C in the driver's seat. If we move the child over into seat 3, we'd have another 6 where the child was in seat 3, and whoever was in seat 3 would then shift to seat 4. Then this looks very much like what we're doing is we're dealing with all of these permutations in the case of the child being in 4, and then we're going to deal with all of these permutations again the permutation of the 3 adults again, with the child being in seat 3. So it looks like we're dealing with 3 factorial times 2, but it's not quite that simple. What we're really dealing with is 2 permeate 1. Now that's kind of weird. This is really 2 factorial because we're dealing with 2 permeate 1. And that's going to be a bit weird if you think about it, because we are used to seeing, for NPR, we're used to seeing R as the bigger number, and it is again, or R is the smaller number, and it is again here, but we have one child in 2 seats, so you might think that it would be 1 permeate 2, but we're not used to that situation. So what we really can do is just switch it around and just say that rather than permeating one child over 2 seats, we can permeate 2 seats over one child, or the seats choose the child sort of thing, except it's not combination. But you get the point. We can do 2 over 1 this way. So we're really, when we're doing 2 here, we're talking about these 2 seats and how many different ways can they combine with the single child. It works out the same with the math, so it's all good. All right. So let me get rid of, yeah. So what we're really looking at then for the children is 2 factorial over 2 minus 1 factorial, which is 1 factorial, which of course that just goes away and leaves 2 factorial, and 2 factorial is 2 times 1, which is 2, hence why it looks like it doubles. Okay. Once we've dealt then with the children, we can simply then add in the adults, and we get 3 factorial, which is 6, times 2 factorial, which gives us 12. Okay, so let's go ahead and let me just let's do this. Hang on, sorry. Let's go ahead then and do this with our 5, our family of 5 with 3 adults and 2 children. Okay. So again, we have this car is actually here and here and here. We have 3 seats, but this time I'm not going to deal with this so much with the diagramming of it. What we're going to do is we're going to work it by a formula, and the basic approach is simply to start with the children because they're the strong restriction, and then figure in the adults, which is really kind of what we did last time. By putting D in that 4th seat, that's really what we did. So let's go ahead and do that again. And we'll remember that we have 2 children over 3 seats, or really in this case, 3 seats that are going to permeate over 2 children. So we can say that we're doing 3 permeate 2, which is 3 factorial over 3 minus 2 factorial, leaving 1 factorial. Again, let me just write that out so you see what I mean. This, for those you still aren't used to it, 3 minus 2 factorial, which of course 3 minus 2 is 1, so we can simply say that that is 1 factorial. 1 factorial, of course, is just 1, so we really are just left with 3 factorial for the children. So the children can sit in 6 different arrangements, and you can look at that if you want. If we have, let's say, Robert and Paul, just because I have no idea why I picked those names, but we could have, let me not put them there as such because that dictates where they're going to sit. We can have Robert, Paul, and nothing. We can have Robert, nothing, and Paul. We can then switch Paul to the front, to the left, and say we have Paul, Robert, and nothing. And then we have Paul, nothing, and Robert. And then moving to the other side, we have nothing, Robert, and Paul, and then nothing, Paul, and Robert. So again, we can see that this 6 factorial really does, or this 3 factorial, which is 6 possibilities, really does work out. Once we've dealt with the children, we can simply deal with the adults after that. And if we look at it, we have 2 children. They take up 2 seats somewhere, leaving 3 seats for the 3 adults. So that is simply what? Of course, 3 factorial. We're not going over anything. It's just 3 adults taking up 3 seats at some given time. So we have 3 factorial times 3 factorial, 6 times 6, which equals 36, if my math stands, which, as everyone knows, it really doesn't. So that takes care of that problem. Let's then look at the 6 friends in the water coaster. I love water coasters. Too much fun. I like to be in the front. Okay, get all sorts of wet. Much fun. All right. So basically, oops, let's take that a bit more like that. Okay. So here we have 3 seats, 2 benches. We have 1, 2, and 3 that can sit on the front bench. 3 that can sit on the back bench. 2 of those are always going to be taken up. You can see right away that if we used Paul and Robert again, we get exactly the same thing of Paul, Robert, blank, etc., etc. So those are going to take up 3 factorial, or 6. 6 possibilities. Yeah. So what we can do then is, let's see, sorry, this, oops, okay. We can deal with the 3 seats choosing 2 people. So we have 3 benches, which are going to permeate over 2 people. And I apologize for saying choose a moment ago, but 3 benches, which are going to permeate over 2 people. Again, that formula is 3 factorial over 3 minus 2 factorial, which again is 1 factorial, which of course is 1, and 3 over 1. 3 factorial over 1 is simply 3 factorial. This then leaves 4 spots for the rest of the friends. There's no other seats available, so it's just 4 permeating over 4. So it's just 4 factorial. And then we can simply, once you get your calculator out at this point, you get, let's see, 3, of course, oops. That's, of course, 6, and then 4 times 3 is 12, times 2 is 24. So we get 24, and then 24 by 6. Did I do this right? Oops, that's 6, 12 is 24, and 12, 14. So a total of 144 possible seating arrangements if 2 of the 6 friends always want to be in back. Okay, thank you for your tolerance and patience with this. I hope this makes a lot more sense for you, and we will see you later. Have a great night.